Last week we spoke about a certain thing that happens during the night with a certain black rooster, and also spoke about different situations that happens when the person dies, before the death, after the death. Interestingly, we spoke about the rooster that maybe today we'll get to explain it a little bit more, but we'll see as it goes. So we're in Parashat, still in Parashat Vayechi, even though you see that the topic what we're talking about is not always connected to the parasha. Sometimes it's connected to the parasha, sometimes it has nothing to do with the parasha, just how it was organized. It comes in the order of the parashot. So in Parashat Vayechi, page 218, and no point of really repeating the last week's shiur. We'll just continue from where we left off. Just reminding you again, the black rooster and the fire under his wings, then becomes hot, and then at midnight it flips the wings. We heard a very interesting story by our guest here, that he, by chance, somebody came and gave him a rooster, a black chicken, and he had him in a box, in a closed box. I don't know if you noticed, after the class was over, he said the story in Hebrew, and he looked in the box, and he sees like a black chicken. He took it home, and it was in the box the whole night. And he says around 1 o'clock in the morning, the chicken started making noise and flapping his wings, and he was like, wow, this has nothing to do with seeing dawn or seeing light. You see that it's something spiritual, that around the time of midnight he started making noise and flapping his wings. So Bezrat Hashem, we'll see if we'll get more information about the rooster. But till then, we're back to the topic. We're still talking about the whole topic about the death, what happens before, during, and after, which is very important to know, because when you know what's waiting for you, then you know how to prepare accordingly. Tanya b'shata denafik nishmate devarnash. We have learned that in the moment, at the time when the soul of the person leaves the body, azlin kulhu kirivoy v'chavroi dehu alma im nishmate. All the relatives and the friends and souls that know that soul, but from the world above, they escort, so to say, and they go with the soul that just left the body. Umchazyan le atra de iduna ve'atra de onasha, and they're showing that soul the place that he's going to get in Gan Eden, and they're showing the soul the place where he's going to be punished in Gehenom. So they're showing both. They're saying, here's your Gan Eden. The soul is getting all excited. Whoa, wait a minute. First you go into Gehenom, and then you can go into your Gan Eden. If that person is holding in the level of a tzaddik, and again, there is the tzaddik emet that we know of, but the reason why our sages say in different occurrences that we all tzaddikim, v'amech kulam tzaddikim, because the word tzaddik comes from the word tzedek. Tzedek can be translated as righteousness, but tzedek can also be translated as justice. And when the soul is standing in the heavenly court, they're looking at it like any court case. You present your merits, you present your sins. It's more like the prosecutors, they coming with all the sins that you did, and the defense attorneys are backwards and forth, and he didn't, arguing on your behalf. It's a whole process. And this is not like the courthouses in this world that you can lie. Rather, there's no lying up there. So, and the thing is that nobody's here perfect. Very few people leave the world completely clean from sin. But nevertheless, they're weighing it in the heavenly court, and they're seeing, okay, how much mitzvot, how much good deeds, how much intention went into the mitzvah, how many effort and how much excitement went into the sin. So there's a good chance that in the court case, you are going to be 70% good and 30% not good. But you can still win the case. When you win the case, you are considered tzodek. You came out tzodek. So the term tzaddik comes from the fact that I proved that I'm okay in my case, and therefore maybe I will have to go just a little bit to Gehenom just to get a few of the stains off. Maybe a reincarnation, maybe I don't know. That depends on the heavenly court, and nobody can come and tell you otherwise. But the idea is, that's why the right approach is, yes, listen, we're not perfect, but at least be smart and make as much as mitzvot as you can, because you never know how is that going to affect at the time when you have to present the case. Nevertheless, it says here, if a person is a tzaddik, now interesting, in Aramaic it says izaka'a. If you acquitted, that's how you say in court, that if they get off, it's acquitted, right? In Hebrew you say zakai. You go to the court case, you show your evidence, and let's say you win, they say, okay, zakai, you can leave. In Aramaic it says zaka'a. But interestingly, the translation is tzaddik, because they said, okay, you won the case. So if the person is going to be acquitted, meaning he's getting the title of tzaddik, then they're showing him the place in Gan Eden. But Mesalik vayati ve'id atan ve'it adan beidudna illa adehu alma. And then, not only that they're showing him the place in Gan Eden, they're taking him up and they're sitting him down, and he's sitting in the world above, and he's pleasuring in such of a way what's going on there, that he's literally getting, this is bemet a preview, this is not the real Gan Eden. It's almost like nowadays before you have a wedding you go to the hall to make a tasting. So they're bringing him to his place in Gan Eden, meet the friends, here's your friends here, this is where you're going to be, tasting a little bit the godly light, and getting a pilot.
That's a Hesed of Hashem?
Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with Chesed of Hashem. They're just showing him the place in Gan Eden, and he's getting unbelievable pleasure from that. But after that, he goes down back to the world to mourn the 7 days. We're talking about when a person just died. Just imagine, in a flash of a light, the soul goes up. It's almost like pre-predicted what's going to be, and they're giving him a tour of Gan Eden, getting a little bit of a taste, but then the soul has to come down instantly to mourn the 7 days, like we sit Shiva on a person that died, and the soul has to come and be present during the Shiva. And that's why we know that the soul, the first 7 days, is sitting next to the body. In the morning, during the day, it goes to the home. That's when we obligated in sitting Shiva. And then at night, it goes and sits on the grave, and it mourns the death, the loss of the body. It feels a lot of pain. But first of all, it can't communicate with the world. So it cannot communicate with the world. So it sees, just imagine as a father, as a husband, you see the child crying, and you can't hug the child and says, it's okay, I'm in a good place, thank you. More than that, it already knows the sins, and it already knows what's about to happen, knows everything. And it causes a lot of pain to the neshama. Worse than that, that's what I've been saying in different events, that when you get used to too many things in this world, what's called an addiction, the nefesh needs it. So I always give the same example. If you remember, many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, maybe less, there was a movie called Ghost. Remember that movie? With Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore? Remember the part when he was on the subway and there was another guy who was dead, and he started kicking things, and he's like, whoa, how did you do that? Remember that part? And then he was like, what I would give for a cigarette. Remember that part? The soul has whatever addictions it had in this world, it has it. So the soul is sitting on the grave, and it wants a cigarette, and it wants a cup of coffee. and it wants it's whatever it is, everything. I'm just saying a cigarette or a cup of coffee. You know, people are addicted to their phone, to pills, to drugs, they have that, and needless to say, it causes a lot of pain to the nefesh. And more than that, can you imagine being stuck between worlds and knowing what's about to happen? This is what happens if the person is going to end up being in Gan Eden. But ve'ilav have zaka. But what if you're not going to come out right in the din or quitted? As then ishtarat hahi nishmata behai alma ad itamir gufa be'ara. Then the soul is going to stay in this world till the body will be placed in the ground, and buried. Kevan the itmar kama gardinin the nimusin achadan be. Since the body is buried in the ground, then there's a few prosecutors. It's called ba'alei dinin. Somebody who's holding a din. I owe you money, there's going to be a prosecution here. If you owe me money, they're going to come to me and say, did he pay the debt off? No, he didn't pay the debt off. Oh, so there's an open balance there. Okay. So this is called a Baal Din, somebody who has a prosecution. Since there's a few Baalei Dinim, somebody who's holding some type of a prosecution, they're holding the soul down. You're not going anywhere, Buster. The soul wants to go up, and this din is holding the soul down. Now just imagine that's the fear and the pain. Ad demmata leduma ve'alin le b'madorei degenom. Till that soul, physically we dig a hole in the ground, and the body goes into the ground. For most opinions, Genom is in the inside of the world. It's not somewhere in the cosmos. There's actually now, somebody sent me all these recordings, maybe you saw it, of some Russian drilling company. They were drilling for gas or something, and they drilled so deep, and they have recordings, and they said we reached to Genom, and you hear screaming and noises, and it was recorded in one of these mines. And they're like, okay, we drilled so deep, we reached to Genom. But nevertheless, there is many different levels in Genom. One of the levels of Genom is called Duma. If you remember when we say Hallel on Rosh Chodesh and other occasions, we say Velo kol yordei Duma. And it says Lo hametim yehalleluya. The dead cannot praise Hashem. Velo kol yordei Duma. And all the ones who go down to the level that's called Duma means the ones who go down to Genom. They can't praise Hashem. So this soul has to go all the way down, but from all the sections, what's called Medurim, to a place that is called Duma, and then they're putting the soul into the whatever section it belongs to in Genom. Amar Rabbi Yehuda kol shiva yomin. Rabbi Yehuda says that during the 7 days after the person dies, this is, by the way, where we're getting all these customs of sitting shiva and all the rest of the things. That's one of the many reasons why we cover the mirrors during Shiva. If you've ever been to a house that they sitting Shiva, because the nefesh is in the house, wandering around, looking around. Just imagine what a shock the nefesh gets when it comes to the mirror and, wait a minute, there's nothing there. And the nefesh, so to say, feels, now if I'm going like this, I see my hands. The nefesh still has this awareness just without the body. But it says there is, so to say, an image. So the nefesh kind of sees that it exists, and then looks in a mirror and freaks out. What's going on here? So if you ever wondered why we cover the mirrors, but nevertheless, Zohar explains what's going on in the 7 days. So that's where we get the idea of sitting 7 days Shiva. Rabbi Yehuda says that during those 7 days after the person died, nishmata azla mi bete lekivre or mikivre lebete. The soul goes from the grave to the home, and to the home to the grave. Home, grave, the whole 7 days. As the person dies, the soul already left, the neshama left, the ruach left, the nefesh sits next to the body. In the ambulance, in the hospital, it's next to the body. look now at all the cases of the near-death experience, they'll say, I'm next to the body. I was next to the body. I was attached to the body. I didn't even leave the body. I was going wherever the body was going. That's where I was. It's constantly next to the body. When the soul is being buried, when the body is being buried, then the nefesh is sitting like this on the grave. It wants to be next to the body, but then it sees all its loved ones going home, so the nefesh is going home with everybody. Hey, wait for me, guys! Wait! Goes in the car, wants to put a seatbelt on. What's going on here? So the whole week of the Shiva, the soul is going, and I'm talking about here about the nefesh, goes to the home and goes to the grave. Goes to the home, goes to the grave. So it's actually very not good to go to the grave during the first week. V'it'abbalat aloi de gufa, and the soul is mourning the loss of the body. This is a very strong connection between the body and the soul. Dichtiv ach besaro alav yichav v'nafsho alav te'eval. This is quoting a verse from the book of Job. Now, I don't remember if I explained it in these classes or maybe in a different class, but when we're reading all sorts of teachings of Kabbalah or Chassidut or Zohar, then there's always going to be a reference where is the rabbi getting it from. Because, look at, for example, the Arizal, everything that he wrote, he was questioned. Where are you bringing that from? I mean, how can we count on what you're saying? So you'll see in many places, you see in the morning when you're running here Chassidut, there's always going to be thrown to a reference, which verse in the Torah or the Tanakh they're getting it from. So same thing here. The Zohar is quoting a verse from the book of Job, from Eov, that it says, Ach besaro alav yichav, the flesh on him will start having pain, v'nafsho alav te'abel, and the nefesh is going to mourn the loss of the meat, so to say. Now, what does that really mean?
What pasuk is that?
This is in the book of Eov, in chapter 14, verse 22. So, the soul is mourning on the loss of the body that it just left. Why? Now it starts to get a little bit interesting. Because in the first 7 days, the deen, the judgment, becomes much, much stronger. And what happens to the body? In the first 7 days, the body goes through a process that is called chibut hakever. And this is a very, very not pleasant process. Chibut is lachvot, is punching or hitting, and kever is a grave. The Gemara actually explains that once the last dust, speck of sand, falls on the grave, finish covering the grave, 4 angels dive into the grave, they push the grave down, inside, to the height that the person would be able to stand. And they come with torches of fire, and they start beating the soul. Start beating it. This is called chibut hakever. They start beating it strong. Now, this process is not so fun. It doesn't even sound like fun. And the nefesh sees that, and it's hurting the meat. Now, first they need to take the soul out. The nefesh, it's like in a root canal. They have to take pieces of the nerve until they get everything out. Nevertheless, this is not a nice process. One of the reasons why we have to go through this process is because the body got so immersed with the physical pleasures that it's stuck to the body and the soul can't leave. Every time that you pleasure something in this world, just know that it's going to cost one day. So, excuse me? Even if it's permitted. Our sages say, Kadesh et atzmecha b'mutar lecha. Sanctify yourself with what you are permitted. I'm not talking about prohibited things. Prohibited things, that they're going to take care of that in Gehenom, because that's stuck to the soul so hard that we're talking about the permitted things. If you remember today, after Mincha, what did we learn? We learned about basar v'chalav. Remember, we talked about the taste that gets stuck, absorbed into the pot or the pan. In the first 24 hours, we said the taste is the most strong. After 24 hours, it loses the power of the taste. But we spoke about the taste of chametz. Chametz is a isur d'oraita, a prohibition from the Torah. The taste of the chametz stays. It doesn't leave so fast. So you can compare it, that the taste of the chametz, you can compare it to a sin that is prohibited. It's so stuck onto the neshama that you can only get it off in Gehenom, in heat, that will be able to pull it out. That's why the Gehenom is like compared to a dry cleaner. If you have now a stain on your jacket, you could go like this as much as you want. It's not going to go out. You need to take it to the dry cleaner, steam it. And because it's steamed, then you're able to pull out the stain. So if it's a isur, a mamash, a prohibition, then the soul will have to get it somehow out. But if it's something that is permitted, food, for example, all the rogalachs you eat here in the morning, there's going to be a cost for that one day. One day they're going to come and say, listen, on the Chaf of Tevet, Tavshinayin Chet, you had 3 rogalachs, and it tasted so good. Here in the taste buds, it was so yummy. You enjoyed it, right? Yeah. Okay. Then we have to take this junk, this schmutz off the neshama, because the neshama won't be able to go up. That's why our sages always say, sanctify yourself with what you are permitted. Don't try to minimize pleasure from this world in anything. And I'm talking about what you are permitted in. Shabbat, do whatever you want. You saw Shabbat, I had some of the tasty things and the cakes. Shabbat, that's for Lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. Then you can pleasure on all this junk. But during the week, minimize as much as you can, because you're going to have to go through Schibut HaKever. Needless to say, the severe sins, but it's not a fun process. There's many ways how to prevent from this process. One of the things that we do, many people have the custom that when you finish praying Shmona Esrei, you, in the last Yehil Ratzon, you say a verse that has the first letter of your name and the last letter of your name. Because these angels, they ask you, what's your name? And if you're going to tell them, my name is Moshe, we don't know any Moshe. We don't know any Moshe up here. There's no such thing Moshe up here. You say a verse, okay, and they leave you alone. So we say the verse at the end of Shmona Esrei. If you notice, when you go up to the Torah, why you always look in the Torah? Everybody looks in the Torah, don't know what they're looking at. You lift up the Torah, everybody's, what are you looking for? The numbers in the lottery? You have to look for your name. And when you have to look at the letters of your name, because it leaves an impression on the nefesh that it can recognize the letters of the name through the Torah. There's no names in the world above. But there's many different things one can prevent this process. It's not a fun process. Let's put it this way. But anyways, in the first week, the judgment against the soul is very powerful, because the person died. And it's brooding suffering on the body in this process that is called Chibut HaKever. But then the soul has to mourn on this pain. That's why the Torah has ordered us that we have to sit for 7 days and mourn at the loss of somebody. Then what happens? Azla veyatva bebete chamei lechulhu atzivin umit'abla. Then after the soul sees all this, it goes to its home and it sees that everybody's sitting there and mourning and crying and fighting over the inheritance, and hears all the lashon hara and all the bad mouth. Oh, he was this, he was that, and so the soul sees everything and sitting there during the Shiva and has to tolerate the nonsense that's going on. Usually in a Shiva there's fighting over the inheritance, or starting to blame who said this. This is what's going on.
If people know all this that are sitting Shiva, can they make the environment nicer for the nefesh?
Yes, 100%. That's why usually when we sit Shiva, you want to learn a lot of Torah, and of course you want to have an environment of Kedusha. Not to talk about business and how this person did this person did that. Then yeah, of course, that's why we do minyanim at the house of the person who's sitting Shiva. Not only because the mourner can't go out of the house. So there will be Kedusha in the house, should be Torah, should be praying. Usually you want to bring somebody, talk a little bit of Torah. The people will start taking turns learning Mishnayot, of course. And you want to make sure that the house is as much as holy as possible in that week. Needless to say. Now, so this is just the tip of the iceberg, what really happens. We're just going through the process. There's much more to that. But after that, Tana betar shiva yomin gufa havikama dehava. And we learned that after these 7 days of mourning on the body, and and the body has to go through this pain and the sorrow of chibut hakever, then happens even something even worse. Starts coming all the worms, and they start eating the body. And that's also painful for the soul. The actual pain. You know, a tzaddik's body doesn't get decomposed. The worms don't eat the tzaddik's body. The body is 100% intact. Open now a grave of a tzaddik, you'll see the body over there. Because it's tzaddik, because there's no gashmiut on the body. Now, again, you pleasure too many things in this world, which means you have, so to say, some type of a place in the world, and the worms have what to eat. And that's also painful. Can you imagine sitting there in the grave and seeing the worms eating you away? So comes even a greater sorrow, that comes the worms and the decomposing, the body starts to get decomposed. And this is all depending according to your actions in this world. The more your actions are positive, the more your actions are to the side of being righteous, then this process is not so bad. The more the person is chas v'shalom lying, cheating, stealing, and etc., etc., then the pain, of course, is greater. Now what happens? V'nishmate alat leduchta. Then the soul is going up to the place where it's supposed to arrive. And then there's a order how it goes. I mean, this is a long process. It's not that you just pack your bags, go into the express train and go up. There's a whole process. So the soul has to go to where it belongs, and there's an order. What is the order? Alat le'me'arta dechapelta. We talked about it today. First of all, it has to go into Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Wherever it is in the world, doesn't matter if it's in New Zealand, it's in Brazil, or in Hebron, the soul first has to go to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. And it arrives to Ma'arat HaMachpelah, Chamat ma dechamat, ve'alat le'atar de'alat. Over there, it sees what it's supposed to see, and it goes to the place that it has to go through. In Ma'arat HaMachpelah, remember when we were kids, there was this show, now I don't even remember how it's called, I think it was called The Time Machine, and there was a tunnel with all these white and black colors. Remember they went in and remember that? Yeah? Good childhood or bad childhood? You remember that or not? You remember? So it comes to Ma'arat HaMachpelah, and the tunnel will take you, it's a very unique tunnel. I know a Ma'ara is a cave, but it's a tunnel. It will take you where you have to come. So you go in the tunnel, it will take you this way. Right after another one comes, take you that way. It's a very unique tunnel that will take you exactly where you need to go to. So it takes you, you have to go through Ma'arat HaMachpelah, and it's Sham, over there, you see what you're supposed to see, and it goes to the right entrance where it belongs to. And I told you already, this is not in this Zohar, but you have a welcoming committee by Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon stands there and, hi, how are you? And then, of course, like I said in the morning, the soul starts arguing with Adam HaRishon. Look what you did. You brought a sin to the world of death. Now I died because of you. And Adam HaRishon answers, really? So I did one sin. Let's see your sins. And he comes, he has a copy from the heavenly courts. So I remember when you go there and you see the guy, just tell him, it's okay. I'm one of us. I'm part of you. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not upset. Nevertheless, the soul goes into the tunnel, and the tunnel is already channeled exactly where the soul needs to go to. Where does it go? Ad de matat le Gan Eden. Goes to the lower part of Gan Eden. Gan Eden has many medregot. There's a Gan Eden Tachton, Gan Eden Elyon. It comes to the lowest part of Gan Eden. Because why? Because from Ma'arat HaMachpelah, it only goes to Gan Eden. There's no other place where it goes to. But it depends which Gan Eden. But it goes to Gan Eden Tachton. Ve'arat lichruvin ve'shanan decharba di Gan Eden diltata. On the way to Gan Eden, but the lowest part of Gan Eden, it meets, how do you call the kruvim? Cherubs? Yeah, cherubs. It meets the cherubs, and these are not nice cherubs. It's not these little babies with the wings and they hug each other. It meets the angels. It meets what's called Malachei Chabala. These angels of destruction, standing there like with their how do you call them? The batters, the bats. But they're holding a sword that is called the Lat HaCherev HaMitapechet. The same angels that were put in Gan Eden to guard it. So they're holding the sword that has a... that the thing goes round. The Lat sickle? Yeah. So where do you think they're getting all these pictures, all these heavy metal bands? And they're getting it because that's the descriptions. So these angels, these Malachei Kabbalah, are standing there with their sickles that is pointed, it's edged like that, so they can grab the soul. You're not going anywhere, Hamud. You stay here right now. And it meets these Malachei Kabbalah with their sickle, and Hashem put them there to guard the path that is called the Tree of Life. And you're not going to come and shoplift from over there. If the person is worthy, if the soul is worthy, then they open a gate to that soul, and the soul will go through this gate. Now, what's going to be in this gate? Tana arba samchin zibnin. We have learned that there are 4 pillars once it goes in, and 4 angels are standing there. Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael. And they're all standing there, and they're ready to dress the soul and take it to Gan Eden. That's if you have the merit, of course. One of them, one of the angels, is holding the shape. That this shape is the garment, the spiritual garment that the soul gets dressed into it. And this spiritual garment is built from the 4 spiritual elements that we talked about in a previous class: air, fire, water, and afar, earth, water, air, and fire. But this shape that they're holding, that this angel is holding, is the exact shape of the body, because the body has to get dressed in what's called a tselem, in some type of a form, in a mold. And they're holding this shape in their hands. And this is what's called Chalukah de Rabbanan. Chalukah is a coat, and the Rabbanan is of the individual. And what is this Chalukah de Rabbanan? This garment is the garment that you created with your mitzvot in this world. So if you don't have any mitzvot, then you're going to walk in naked. That's how it is. Even this is how amazing it is. That I'm sure you heard my testimony. I was naked. I was literally standing there completely naked. If you don't have mitzvot. Now, if you have mitzvot, one of the malachim is holding this garment, and you put your right hand, they go like that. They fix you up, and so this garment has the shape, so to say, of the body. And this garment is done from the mitzvot that the person did in his life. Mitlabsha bechedvata, and the soul, of course, gets dressed with a lot of happiness. You see your own mitzvot, and you see which mitzvah formed which part of the garment. Now look at the garment like that. Look at this jacket. You have a sleeve, and this part, and this part, and this part. Look how many, in Hebrew it's called klai. Klai is like pieces. The garment probably has, this jacket has probably, 12, 20, 15 pieces, and they're all sewed together. This garment that the soul gets dressed in has a lot of pieces in it. That's one of the many reasons. I don't know if you ever saw how they bury people. They take pieces of cloth and they sew them together. It's called tachrichim, and they cover the body with that. And it's called tachrichim. Chevre Kadisha, the ones who are preparing the body. You should maybe we should do a road trip, not a road trip, field trip. So we said we should do a field trip to a mashchita, a field trip. Maybe they will erase it. Oh, okay. We want to do a field trip to a slaughterhouse to see how they slaughter. We want to do a field trip to how they make wine. We should do a field trip to see how the Chevre Kadisha cleans the body. You know what a mitzvah it is, to clean bodies? It's, I had a friend once who said, okay, I'll go and do it. And he was in the morgue, and everybody's quiet there, not a lot of noise there, and they have to wash first the body real good, have to clean every little part of the body, cut the nails, cut the hair. It's a whole process. Some of the things are not so nice to see, especially if the body went through an accident. But he was cleaning, and at some point he bent down, and the hand fell on his back. that was the last time he cleaned bodies. He's like, I ran out of there. First of all, he told me that the body has a lot of air in it, so he was washing the body, and as he's washing the chest, that's it. So he saw too many horror movies, and every time he pressed on the body, air comes out. So he's already starting to freak out there. And then when you press too much on the stomach, if there's air in the stomach, then it will come from different directions. So, and then he told me that he bent over and the hand just fell in because he didn't put it good, and it fell on him, and that's it. He ran out. He's like, I'm never going in there again. So, but it's a huge mitzvah, because to prepare the body, it's called kavod hamet. And if it's done the right way, you save so much pain to the soul. Then you have to take the body, you put it in the mikveh. It's a whole process. Nevertheless, so the soul, if it has a lot of garments, a lot of mitzvot, it will gladly get dressed into this garment that they're giving to it before they're going into a higher place in the spiritual world. Vayechi be'ahu medora de Gan Eden zlata. And this is the soul is with this beautiful garment sitting in the lowest place of Gan Eden, and it's waiting there. It's just sitting there like a waiting room, and it's sitting there with his nice garment. Ad zimna dit gazar ala, till the time that it was decreed for that soul to sit there. Why? Because of the sins of the soul, it's prevented to go to the higher level of Gan Eden, what's called Gan Eden Elyon. That's where it's supposed to stay. That's the final place. So in the meantime, it's in like the waiting room. Levata, after the soul got, so to say, rectified, corrected, cleansed in the lowest level of Gan Eden, then it will be permitted to go to the highest level of Gan Eden. Then what happens? There's an announcement in Shamayim, Kol Zakare. There's an announcement that says this soul, it's time for it to go up to the highest level, a higher level in Gan Eden. And this, of course, we're talking about a person that's tried as much as they can in this world to do mitzvot, and like people like us. Now, of course, once the soul is in this position, then everybody from below can assist the soul. You see, that's why when a person dies, you say Kaddish, everybody learns Mishnayot, Tehillim, they dedicate classes, they do all these things called Aliyat Neshama.
So that's part of the first year then? Or is that could be
this is right in the beginning. This is right after the 7 days. Now, you with me?
What if we missed it?
Miss what?
To do these things for somebody.
Then you know my joke. There was once a soul that the person was very wicked. And he was so wicked, right away they took him to the worst place in Gehenom, they locked it and threw the key. And this soul was eternally sitting in Gehenom. One day an angel walks in and he tells to the soul, you, get up, get your stuff, you're going out. Really? Where? Come, you're coming with me. Taking him out of Gehenom, suddenly, the heat. Just imagine sitting there. They're taking him through these corridors, he's starting to cool down. Some fresh air, he's sitting there for like 100,000 years. Suddenly they open a big door, then taking him into Gan Eden. Oh, suddenly the air conditioning. It's getting cooled down a little bit. Walking into these beautiful corridors in Gan Eden, opening a room, they're sitting him in Gan Eden. Wow, see this luxury. People start coming, start massaging him, serving him margaritas. He's like, wow, wow, where was I for all these years? Sits in Gan Eden for 2 weeks, grapes, feeding him grapes, massaging his toenails, and he's like, oh, this is the life. After 2 weeks in Gan Eden, he's having the time of his life. The same angel walks in and says, you, get up, we're going. What? Where are we going? Come. He takes him out of Gan Eden, And he says, where are you taking me? You're going back to your place in Gehenom. What? Why are you taking me back to Gehenom? Just come after me. Tells him, listen, angel, when you took me out of Gehenom and put me in Gan Eden, I didn't ask questions. But now you let me enjoy Gan Eden for 2 weeks, and now you're taking me back to Gehenom? I need to know why. So the angel tells him, listen, Habibi, you are so wicked, your place is in Gehenom, and you're going to stay there forever. But your son made tshuva, became a Baal tshuva. Oh, really? Yeah. And you know what? 2 weeks ago when we took you out of Gehenom, you know why we took you out of Gehenom? Because he donated $50,000 to write a Sefer Torah in your name. Wow. באמת? Yeah. So why are you taking me from Gan Eden back to Gehenom? He donated the Sefer Torah? No. He says, no, I'm sorry to tell you, the check bounced. So we have to go back. So everything that we do in this world, it pushes the soul from below. Needless to say that when it's done right during the death, then it saves the soul a lot of anguish, a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow. But if the soul now is not in a good place for whatever reason, and suddenly a grandson, a son, a relative, even a stranger, does something in the name of that person, whoop, it gets pushed up from above. You can sit now and read some Tehillim to a grandparent or a parent, you don't even know what it does, where they're stuck and where they are. Sometimes just the fact that the grandson or the son, it just becomes observant and pushes everybody from above. Needless to say, this is not stam that we dedicate classes, we do a Leilui Nishmat. You see every Sefer Torah, you see Leilui Nishmat for the elevation of so-and-so. That's why is it so popular to donate in a Sefer Torah? Because I can imagine the merit having a Sefer Torah in the person's name, in the soul's name. So needless to say, all these things help a lot. It's not fiction. It's not just something he invented that. It's literally like that. Just make sure that the check doesn't bounce.
Do women go through the same process? Women so?
Yeah. Women and men, same thing. No difference between women and men. And this has to do with the soul, not with the gender. Now, let's do a little bit more. Now we're just talking about the good things, by the way. Let's see if maybe tomorrow we'll talk about the not such the good things. But nevertheless, on the way up to Gan Eden Elyon, there is a pillar. Ve'amuda diklat gavnei izdaman. The soul is sitting wherever it's sitting in Gan Eden Tachton for whatever amount of time that it's supposed to sit there. And then there's one pillar that is, we call it the pillar, but this is the sphira that is called the Yesod. And the Yesod is basically connecting between Gan Eden Tachton to Gan Eden Elyon. And it's like a pillar, like a tube. And this pillar is, it has 3 shades. I don't know if shade is the right word, but if you have, let's say, blue. So you have a light blue, a dark blue, how do you call it? Shades? Shades of blue? So there's 3 shades on this pillar, or 3 types of colors, which are these certain lights. And all of these lights, there are sfirot of Chesed, Gvura, V'Tiferet. And they're shining, so to say, on this pillar that is called Yesod. And the soul is welcomed to this tube, to this pillar, like an elevator shaft. And the reason is because in Gan Eden, it's divided into the 10 sfirot. Ve'ahu amuda itkarei Machon Har Tzion. This pillar is called, the name that is called is Machon Har Tzion. The Machon, I don't even know how to translate it. Machon is like maybe the place of the Mount of Zion. Har is a mountain and Tzion is Zion. Ki Tzion hi Yesod. The sphere of Yesod is called also Tzion. How do we know that? Because it says it in the prophet Yeshaya, Uvara Hashem al kol Machon Har Tzion v'al mikrei anan yoman nashan. There's a verse in the book of Yeshaya, you can find it in chapter 4, verse 5, that it says, and Hashem has created on the place of Mount Zion, and this is the place where the soul can start going up into Gan Eden Elyon. And in the future, Hashem is going to create a new cloud that it's going to be dwelling over this place of Mount Zion. And what is these places? All these places that for the souls that are ready to sit specifically in that place. And it says in the text, for the people who are sepinad, so to say, are welcome to come to this place. And it says that what's going to be, so to say, dwelling on them? Anan yomam ve'ashan ve'gomer. Like the same way in the Mishkan, there was a cloud dwelling over them. And every time the cloud will go up, and they knew, that's it, we got to move, take the Mishkan apart, and then wherever the cloud went to, then they followed it. I'm talking about in the desert. Same thing here. There's going to be like a cloud, so to say, going above them. Basically saying, in other words, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to elevate these souls that are worthy, or they're called to come into Gan Eden, and they have the merit to go from Gan Eden Tachton to Gan Eden Elyon. Who calls them? The Kadosh Baruch Hu by himself. He says, bring me these souls. Hashem knows everything. He gets reports, and they're telling him, so-and-so is in this place. He says, bring him up. Now, the soul is called to go to Gan Eden Elyon, and then each soul will get a custom-made pillar, that through this pillar, or through this tube, or just imagine the idea of like a pillar, and through that, the soul will go up. This place is directed towards what's called Har Tzion, the mountain of Zion. Salka be'amuda lepitcha de tzedek. And this pillar, like an elevator, the soul goes through, and it goes up to the higher world, and it goes through the entrance of the pillar, and this is called the secret of the world of Malchut, that it can only go through that pillar into the highest level of Gan Eden, which is called Gan Eden Elyon. The Tzion ve'Yerushalayim be, that in there, Tzion and Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, they're part of the connection between the Yesod and the Malchut, and this is called the Nukva de Bagan, the female part of the Gan, meaning the receiving part of the Gan Eden. This is just a little bit more, and then we'll continue tomorrow. Now all this, excuse me?
That was Malchut and Yesod combined?
Yeah, the Malchut and the Yesod are combined, because Malchut is considered the female part, the Nukba, the receiving part, and Yesod is the connection between the Malchut and the rest of the Sfirot. And the soul needs to go through this, so to say, pillar, this channel. Now we continue. And if the soul has the merit to go even higher than that, and to become, becoming one with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, then of course, how lucky is that soul, and what good of a zchut is it, that she will be able to be attached, so to say, in the body, in the spiritual body of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. What is this body of the Kadosh Baruch Hu that we're referring to? This is a sphira that is called Tiferet. But what happens if he doesn't have enough merits to go up? Then, if it doesn't have enough merits to go up, for that there is a verse that is also can be found in the book of Yeshaya. Vehaya, and this is in the exact same chapter. Vehaya hanishar b'tzion, v'anotar b'Yerushalayim, kadosh yamer lo. The one that didn't have enough merit, but still is staying in a place that is called the Mount of Zion, then we'll still get a good definition. It says kadosh yamer lo. He's going to be called kadosh, a holy soul. Now, what does it really mean? That the soul will stay in the level of Yesod and Malchut. No, it's not bad. I hope we're all going to get minimum over there, but it's not going way too high. And this place of the Yesod and the Malchut, they're called Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Tzion is one of the names of Yerushalayim, and in English they call it Zion. Yerushalayim is Jerusalem, of course. But it doesn't go even high. It can go higher. Now, even though you're looking at it from this direction, it seems like great, but for the soul, it's like, wow, I wish I could be one step higher. 5 more minutes learning Torah, I would be there. 3 more minutes having the tzitzit on me, wow, I could be like one step higher. We don't understand that, but the soul realized that, wow, what a shame. One more time I would make a little effort and that's where I could have been. But if the soul has the merit to go a little bit higher than that, then it will go to the Sphira that is called Tiferet. And it says, Ashrei la shezachta lichvodo shel melech. Wow, what happy the soul is that it goes to such a high level. Ulit adna be'iduna ilah. Now the soul is receive this unbelievable pleasure. Lit aden, you know, these little, how do you call it? All these chocolate puddings and stuff like that. In Hebrew it's called ma'adan. When you eat it, it gives you so much pleasure. This is called lit aden, that you get pleasure from consuming something. So the soul gets this unbelievable pleasure that our words will never even be able to define it. Our mind will never even be able to fathom what's this pleasure. But this pleasure comes from the shefa, from the abundance that specifically comes from the sphere of bina, and it pours into the chesed, and from chesed into the sphirot, into the ziranpin. This place is called, that is above Tiferet. I mean, you have Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. The place above it is called Shamayim, heavens. Dichtiv, as it says, and we read it every Shabbat, and when we do Kiddush, and it says, Az titaneg al havaya. This is, again, also in the prophet Yeshaya. We read it in the Kiddush on Shabbat. This is, Az, then you're going to pleasure on the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Al Havaya Davka. What does it mean specifically on, you're going to have pleasure on Havaya? Meaning that the Chesed that is receiving Shefa in abundance from Bina, he comes from above the Sphira of Tiferet, and this level is called Yud Kei Vav Kei, Havaya. Zaka Chulka Deman de Zake Lecheseda. Happy is the one who will be able to reach to that level. Not happy. How do you say? What's the translation when you say Ashrei Yoshvei Betecha? Fortunate, fortunate, praiseworthy or fortunate is the one that will be able to get to that level.
And that's what's it called above Tiferet? You said
Shamayim, Shamayim, heavens. Dichtiv ki gadol ma'al Shamayim chazdecha, and this is quoting a verse of Tehillim. Again, everything that the teachings will say, it will go to the reference, where do we learn it from? This is a verse in Tehillim 108, and the verse says, Ki gadol ma'al shamayim chazdecha, because above the shamayim, how great is your chesed. Now comes a little question. V'chiyal shamayim hu? The chesed is above shamayim? That's not what we learned. We understand that it says in the verse that great is the chesed till the level of shamayim, which means we understand that chesed is underneath shamayim. Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said, "It chesed v'it chesed." There are two types of chasedim. What does it mean? Two types of chasedim: chesed ilah and chesed tata'ah. Chesed that comes from a higher realm and chesed that comes from a lower realm. Chesed ilah ma'al shamayim. The chesed ilah is above the ziranpin, the midot, above the shamayim, and this level of chesed is called shamayim. Chesed tata'ah, it's a lower level chesed. This is called malchut. And where do we learn that? Also, chasdei David hane'emanim. Chasdei David hane'emanim, another verse from the book of Yeshaya, chapter 55, and it says that the lower level of that is called malchut. This is learned from the verse Chasdei David hane'emanim, that these are the chasadim, the kindness, that they're, so to say, are rectifying or fixing the level of malchut, and the level of malchut is called David. That's why we call David HaMelech. If you remember in the morning and many other times I say that a lot of our sages got a title. Moshe got Rabbeinu, Yosef got a Tzaddik. Very few got the title HaMelech. David is called David HaMelech. If you say David, you mean who David? The one from the falafel? No, David HaMelech. Say David HaMelech. So David has the definition of a melech. Why? Because David, Malchut is also called David. Ubehan ektiv ad shamayim. And this is what it's meaning, that under the Tiferet, the level, above the Tiferet is called Shamayim.
Oh, I didn't see how that connected.
You don't see?
Malchut connect. The lower level of Chesed is called Malchut?
No, there are two levels. Rabbi Yossi says there are two levels of Chesed. One Chesed is above, and this is called Shamayim. It's called Shamayim, not above the Shamayim, rather it's above the Midot. This Chesed is called Shamayim. There's another Chesed that is called Malchut, and this is a lower level Chesed. And this is the Chesed where how it manifests into the sphere of Malchut, and therefore it's a lower level Chesed, and this level is called David, or Malchut, however you want to call it. I think we're going to stop here. The next part is already long. Zod Hashem, we'll see what it says tomorrow. But as usual, since we like to take things practically and not to be able also to fall asleep tonight, then when I want to educate my kids, I give them always the option of doing something. Yesterday you commented on that. I said, if you want to come to eat, then come. And you said, I will tell my son, sit down. So I like choosing the method of giving the child an option and letting him choose. And without telling him what's going to happen if he chooses or not. So if I will tell them, if you sit down, I'll give you a cookie, then they'll sit down because they want a cookie. I like giving the child an option, sit down. One will sit, one won't sit. Later on, I will give a cookie to the one who sat down. Hey, why am I not getting? You didn't sit down. But you didn't tell me. I don't need to tell you. I told you, if you want, you can come and sit down. You know what it means sitting down? You're going to be involved in the mitzvah of doing a third meal. Sudah Shlishit. I'm telling you, this is a mitzvah, you can sit down. You choose. Hashem tells us the exact same thing. He tells us, do a mitzvah. Now imagine now Hashem will tell you, if you would do this mitzvah, I will send you $10,000, you'll win suddenly, somehow you'll win the lottery. And you'll do the mitzvah. So what kind of a reward is that? Hashem tells you, do the mitzvah. What's going to happen? I'm not telling you anything. You do it, you don't do it, you'll find out later what's the consequences. Or the reaction or the result. So I choose with my kids to always give them options. This is option number one, option number two. That's how they learn from their mistakes. Not only that, that's how they learn to grow, to choose by themselves, this is good for me, this is not good for me. Because a lot of the negative things that we do is because we just are not educated. And we don't know, this is not good for me. Unfortunately, because society gives us bad education. The Torah comes and tells you, listen, it's all your option. You choose whatever you want. You can choose to do good, you can choose to do bad. So of course, we have the option that we know if we'll do bad, don't think they're going to be waiting for you in Shamayim with a welcoming committee, with signs, aloha, thank you for coming, we missed you. You choose to do something bad, don't forget that that's what you're going to prepare yourself. But on the other hand, you choose to do good, then there's going to be a reaction. We're not going to call it a reward right now, but there's going to be a benefit to your actions. Now, even though we should not do anything based on the fact that what's going to be the reaction, we should do anything just for the sake of Shemaim, but let's not kid anyone, we're not in that level. We don't do things for the sake of Shemaim. We want to get to that point. But in the meantime, I'm doing things because I'm saying I'm kind of investing here in my future. So the Torah comes and tells you, listen, this is the situation, you do whatever you want. This is the method that I choose to give with my kids. You do whatever you want. But you're going to be upset. Doesn't matter if I'm going to be upset or not. You should be upset, not me. We talked about before in the shiur of the Shulchan Aruch before, after Mincha, then I said that even if you do a sin by mistake, you're still obligated. Yeah, but it is by mistake. Doesn't matter. But you still have an obligation here. The fact that you made a mess doesn't mean you need to clean the mess. And it was Rachamim who said here, but is Hashem gets upset or not? It doesn't matter if Hashem gets upset or not. It's not about if Hashem gets upset. Hashem doesn't get upset. But Hashem will come and tell you, Habibi, you ran up a bill, pay the bill. What am I here to pay your bills? You take responsibility for your own act. It has nothing to do with Hashem gets upset or Hashem doesn't get upset. People think that it's all about if Hashem is upset or not. It has nothing to do with Hashem. It has to do with you. You have to be upset that you messed something up. If I chas v'shalom do a sin, even if it's by mistake, I get upset at myself. Why would I do such a thing? So the point that I want to take practically is it all boils down to the same message we're getting over and over. Every moment of this life, any action that I will do will have a chain reaction. You do something good, then the chain reaction, the ripple effect is going to be good. In this world, in the world above, and that's ultimately the will of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But we want to think a lot before we do something. I can now say some type of Lashon Hara to you. I don't know what will be the effect. You'll go say it to him, he's going to go say it to him. Before you know it, 2-3 days, the information is out, right, wrong, doesn't matter. But there's always going to be a ripple effect. Needless to say, we're still in the same chapter, so we're constantly talking about after death. And a lot of people are afraid of that. Don't be afraid, just understand that there's something there. Don't be gullible, don't be naive, and definitely don't put yourself in a state of denial that let's live today because tomorrow we're going to die. No, live today to understand, wait a minute, there's going to be something waiting for me. And a lot of people say, you know what, I understand, but what if Mashiach comes tomorrow? So what do you think, that if Mashiach comes, he's going to take your record and rip it apart? No. There's still going to be a process. The Mashiach is going to establish a courthouse, a Beit Din. When the time of the Beit HaMikdash, if you would do something wrong, you will go to the Beit Din, sometimes the Beit Din will beat you up. You will get 40 lashes. And it wasn't like this. So also the Beit Din can put you through judgment, but before Mashiach is going to come, it's going to be even worse, because now we're going to have a Beit Din. The Beit Din will come and say, listen, you desecrated Shabbat. So there's going to be a consequences for that. The bottom line, again, to take from that something practically is not to live in fear and to think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now when I'm going to be buried? I'm going to go through Chibut HaKever, oh my gosh, and this. The point is looking at more on the positive side. Look where it took us. It was telling us how the soul will go through suffering and then go through Chibut HaKever, and look what it's telling you. If you do this, then you'll reach to this level. You add, you'll have more merit, go to that level. Ultimately, we came down here to ascend to a much higher level. So I know it might sound selfish, but when I do things, I'm thinking, wow, sometimes I don't feel like doing something. Sometimes I don't feel like wearing tzitzit. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, I want to just walk with my t-shirt in the home. And I'm saying to myself, no, about 5 more minutes with the tzitzit. 5 more minutes, pray a little bit slower. Go and do a mitzvah that you really don't feel like doing. You really don't want to. And you're like, what can I do with my time right now? One day you're going to be kissing yourself for saying Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, that I had a little bit of a beam in this cup to understand that, okay, it's not about me right now. It's about doing the will of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But, again, I know it sounds superficial, but I am preparing myself something in the world to come. And even in this world, how close I'm going to be to Mashiach. And again, I know it's not the way we want to learn the Torah, because the Torah tells you don't do it for the sake of getting something. But first, let's do it for the sake of getting something. Let's master that, then you'll start working on doing it for the sake of Shamayim. But the point is, look at it in a selfish way. I'm going to do something now. There's going to be a reaction. There's going to be a good reaction. You know it, and even if you don't get it in this world, don't think it doesn't go in your account. One day you're going to come through this Marat HaMachpelah, Adam HaRishon is going to tell you, wow, Habibi, you're amazing. Listen, you only have 2 pages. Here, the elevator is waiting for you. So, more than that, we have to understand what it means to do chesed with a person that died. Because one of the biggest kindness, charitable acts one can do is with a person who passed away. This is called chesed with a person who died. So sometimes it's not easy to say kaddish on somebody who died, or that somebody dies. There's different groups that they will break up the whole shas. You learn this chapter, you learn that chapter. So we have to also understand what it means to do kindness with a person that can't repay you. To do kindness to a living person, knowing that one day I will get the favor back, that's not the same of doing kindness to a person who passed away from the world. Can't repay you, can't tell you thank you. So, B'ezrat Hashem, this should inspire us to do much more good acts, to understand that there's something much more going on, and my actions are refining my soul, refining the world. Needless to say, making a world a much better place. When you do something good, then people look at you and they want to do something good. They say, hey, this guy's doing it, I can do it too. B'ezrat Hashem, we should merit to go in the highest levels of Gan Eden Elyon, in the merit of our good actions. We should have the ability and the awareness and the desire to only do good acts, and to, needless to say, to be aware of the negative things that can come that should prevent us from doing negative things. When how they say in America, if you can't do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. If you think that you're not going to be able to handle what's going on up there, so don't do it. Before you put your hand somewhere, or before you open your mouth, think. Just be mature. Wait a minute, where is it going to go right now? The word that I'm about to say right now, how far would it go? How far will this arrow fly now by me saying a certain word? Or being silent. B'ezrat Hashem should merit to see Mashiach very soon with their own eyes.